So I had an interesting conversation at the gym today. Someone was telling me that they were working with a coach and they really wanted to put on muscle, but the coach told them that they needed to lose body fat first. And as a trainer, I want to help people get results and be happy with their results as fast as possible. So, number one, when you're working out, do you expect to get fatter or do you expect to get leaner? You expect to get leaner, right? So, of course, setting your client up to lose weight initially is good because they're going to like the visual results that they get. They're going to start seeing more definition. They'll start seeing lines and cuts. And there is something to reducing your body fat to help you put on muscle. And why is that? Okay, when you have an excess amount of body fat, the body is kind of stuck in this fat storing mode. And what happens is fat cells become more insulin sensitive or greedy. So the food that you're consuming that you're hoping is going to go to your muscles and get put to good use, whether it's carbs getting stored as glycogen, whether it's protein going to help you build more muscle. The fat cells, the body gets in the habit of storing fat. And it also increases some of those fat storing hormones and hormones that are less anabolic. But hormones like estrogen go up. Hunger hormones like ghrelin go up. And leptin, of course, will go up too as you put on more body fat. And your body thinks that that's what it's supposed to be doing. It thinks it's supposed to be storing more body fat. And, if you're not gaining an excess of body fat, you're not gaining more body fat during this time, you're burning off the fat that you're storing, but you're not gaining muscle. So by losing body fat first, the fat cells are no longer so greedy for insulin and stealing the protein and the carbs that you're hoping is going to go towards your muscles. But so if you lose the body fat first, you will increase the insulin sensitivity of the muscles. You'll reduce some of those more fat storing hormones like estrogen, and you'll be able to naturally elevate the ratio of testosterone to estrogen. So having a higher testosterone ratio, having more insulin sensitivity in the muscles, both those things will help you gain muscle mass, okay? Now, if you are initially starting your client, or if you're doing this yourself, if you're initially starting your diet at a caloric deficit, can you build muscle? Okay, and I would argue it depends how you're creating that caloric deficit. If you're creating that caloric deficit through extreme calorie restriction or reducing your feeding window, it is much harder to gain muscle. If you're creating that caloric deficit by doing more intense cardio sessions, more frequent, longer lasting, higher heart rate, if the cardio sessions are too intense, heart rate getting elevated above 140, 150, it gets tough to put on muscle, because if you're also restricting your carbohydrates and you're training at a high level, it becomes catabolic to muscle tissue. You'll actually start to burn off muscle tissue when you don't have enough carbs. You might be thinking, oh, well, I'm burning more calories, so I'll lose more fat. Well, that's not how it works. Because at higher heart rates, when you're relying on anaerobic respiratory systems, higher intensity. The higher intensity you train, the more your body's going to rely on carbohydrates and sugars. Well, if you don't have enough carbohydrates or, in the form of glycogen, or if you're not eating before your workout with some simple sugars, then your body will start to break down muscle mass, because muscle's right there. It can start breaking it down and convert that to a sugar through gluconeogenesis. But then, so you're actually losing muscle while you're exercising, which, most people, that's not what they're hoping to do when they're exercising. That's not the weight loss that we're looking for. So can you gain muscle while at a caloric deficit? And I'll say, yes, you can. As long as that deficit isn't too dramatic. So I would say, if you check out your calories, you figure that your maintenance is around 3,000 calories, and you have a 500 calorie deficit per day, you can still time your meals appropriately, put the carbs where they're supposed to be, before your workout, after your workout, and you can still build muscle as long as protein's high enough. So first off, if you're trying to build muscle in a caloric deficit, the first thing you need to make sure is that you have enough protein. Bare minimum, I'd say 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, but I like to take it as high as 1 gram per pound, or 1.25 grams per pound. That would be the upper limit. Anything more than that, you're probably going to get into storing some of that protein as fat, and it won't help you build muscle. So, just slightly more than 1 gram per pound is plenty. Okay. The rest of your calories, somewhere between 40 and 60% of your calories, should come from carbohydrates. Okay, carbs are the preferred fuel source for muscles. If we're getting enough carbohydrates, you won't be losing muscle during your workouts, especially those longer lasting workouts. You need to make sure you're getting in enough carbs. And then you want to have some carbs earlier in the day stored as glycogen, some carbs right before your workout, and some carbs right after your workout. Okay, those are the best 3 times to have your carbs. I did another video on that. Now, don't set your deficit too high. So 750 to 500 calorie deficit maximum. That'll get you about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of fat loss per week. Okay. And, if we're adding in exercise or, cardio training, keep it to low intensity, steady state cardio. Low intensity, steady state cardio does better for burning fat. So you'll be able to use the carbohydrates during your training sessions. If you're doing HIIT training, high intensity interval training, it's going to mimic some of the benefits of lifting weights, but most people will keep their heart rate elevated too high. They'll be burning too much sugar, and they'll probably get to the point where they're getting some muscle breakdown. So my favorite for fat loss is that steady state cardio, walking at an incline, stair stepper at, maybe level 4 to level 6 or 7. But anything higher than that is going to, one, stress those muscles that you're wanting to recover. Okay, because if you've already trained them that week, you should be recovering and preparing for your next hard training session. 2, heart rate will get too elevated, leaving you to be able to burn less percentage of calories from fat and rely more on that sugar metabolism. And remember, if you don't have sugar, you're going to break down muscle tissue. So set your protein high enough. Don't have too big of a caloric deficit. Make sure you're getting in enough carbohydrates, and keep your cardiovascular training at a lower heart rate zone. Okay? And then remember, if you are factoring in your maintenance calories and you're not including in your cardio, the cardio is part of your deficit. If when you're factoring your maintenance calories, you're including your standard amount of cardio in there, well, then now you're gonna factor the calories in against this workload. So you can't count the cardio as extra towards the deficit, okay? Now, if you are more than 20 pounds overweight, or you have a BMI above 18 to 25% for men, you know, anything over 20%, you should be eating at a caloric deficit because you should be getting that body fat off. Once you get to that 14 to 12% range, keep your calories at maintenance, try to gain muscle and watch the fat come off, okay? Now, as you get leaner and leaner, you're gonna be able to eat less and less. It's gonna take more of a deficit to get to that, to get to that fat loss. The body gets resistant. But the longer that you're training at a deficit or eating calories at a deficit, the more your metabolism is gonna drop. But if you are focusing on building muscle and you still want to lose some body fat, be sure to eat enough food that you can build muscle. Be sure to put food at the times where your body is, or your muscle is most insulin sensitive, so that you can respond well to the training. So that's it, guys. Make sure you're eating enough food, train hard. If you're curious on how you should be setting up your calories or how you should be training in order to lose fat and build muscle, and yes, you can do it at the same time. Don't let the fitness industry lie to you. You don't have to bulk up and gain a bunch of fat before you can lose weight, and you don't have to get all the way skinny before you can put on muscle. You can do these at the same time. You have to fine tune your calories, you have to eat at the right times, and you have to train to build muscle. We'll do another video next week about training to build muscle versus training to gain strength or increase speed. Till then, catch you later.